Hello everyone, in this video we are going back to the end of the Second World War to the summer of 1945. As we know from modern history, the first atomic bomb, a test and a prelude to the detonations in Japan several weeks later, did take place on the 16th of July 1945. The site which was the witness to the test explosion was the White Sands Proving Ground military base located in the state of New Mexico in the United States. That day humanity entered its atomic age. It is a relatively unknown fact, though, that the very same area was the witness to a UFO-related event. 1 month after the aforementioned atomic bomb explosion, there was an alleged UFO crash recorded in the same area. The event itself was fairly poorly known and studied until the last 10 years brought it more into the limelight. The story of the Trinity UFO crash began on the 16th of August 1945 with two boys, Jose Padilla, age 9, and Remigio Baca, age 7. The boys lived in the relative vicinity of the Trinity atomic bomb test site. The ranch of the Padilla family was located 18 miles to the northwest. Jose's father had a large ranch leased to the Bureau of Land Management while he worked for the project administration. With the father being busy, Jose, often accompanied by his friend Remigio, took care of many of the duties at the farm and nearby. So it was that fateful day when both boys were riding horseback around the area looking for a lost cow which was about to give birth to a calf. As they did, the boys heard a loud bang and felt the ground shaking. They spotted a smoke plume nearby and headed to its location. As they neared the site, they saw a groove ripped in the ground, approximately a foot deep and about 30 meters wide. The ground was hot and the nearby vegetation was singed. The ground along the groove had a few pieces of metallic debris strewn around. At the end of the groove there lay an avocado-shaped metallic object with a hole in its side. Fearing the object at the heart of the site, the boys observed the scene through binoculars and saw several small creatures rushing around the object. They also heard a sound which resembled a wailing animal. Jose Padilla, the older of the two boys, assessed the object to be 7.5 to 9 meters long and about 4 meters high, and he guessed it must have collided with a nearby radio tower. The creatures the boys saw were 3 in number, 1.5 meters tall, and had large eyes and very long and thin arms. The boys later described their appearance as similar to the one of a praying mantis according to Jose, and similar to fire ants according to Remigio. Despite the inhuman appearance, the boys said the behavior of the strange entities was quite human and they could feel their despair and suffering. They were tempted to get closer to the object and the creatures, but with the sunset around them and with a still long way home, they decided to return. The boys could not return to their find and the site the next day. Life and work on farm is laborious and demanding even these days, and was even more so 80 years ago. However, they did return there on the third day, 18th of August, together with Faustino Padilla, Jose's dad, and Eddie Apodaca, a police officer and a Padilla family friend. Once at the site, the adults had entered the object and studied its interior for several minutes. Once they were outside again, they looked visibly shaken. They forbade the boys to tell anyone about the event at the find, for it could get them into very serious trouble, and that prohibition included their family members as well. As regards the insectoid entities, they were no longer near the object nor anywhere inside anymore. Despite the prohibition, curiosity took over and the boys returned to the crash site later the same day, only to find soldiers collecting the object and the debris. On the 19th, the Padilla farm and the family were visited by Sergeant Avila from the army. He had a permission to enter the property, cut the fence and install a wide gate which would enable the recovery of an experimental balloon from the crash site, as he said, as well as the entry of transport and road construction equipment which could pave the way for a truck supposed to collect the object. During the following days, the soldiers had indeed arrived and started work, installing said gate, and brought in a heavy truck, an 18-wheeler with the superstructure built onto it. It took approximately 3 weeks to complete the preparations, and the soldiers behaved as normal, without any suspicious activity typical for other alleged UFO crashes. 25 days after the crash, the military was finally ready to remove the prized find, and it was packed on the truck bed, ready to leave. That day, Jose and Remigio decided they will try and sneak into the strange vehicle and, if they can, take a souvenir of the entire event from the object. They managed to reach their target, and Remigio left the tarpaulin cover while Jose went inside. He later recalled that the object was metallic and resembled light brass, but without the typical shine for the metal. There was no furniture inside, and on top of the object there was a transparent dome, approximately 70 centimeters in diameter, letting the daylight in. On the side there was a panel sized about 75 by 60 centimeters to which a metal piece was attached with pins. Jose used a crowbar and snatched the piece, while the boys kept it as their souvenir. It was about 30 centimeters long and weighed almost half a kilogram or a pound, and had holes for pins in it. Their treasure eventually became the only remaining item from the crash site, although initially there were also recovered strips of lightweight metal with what seemed like memory shape properties and which resembled aluminum, and lots of silver wires similar to the ones used in Christmas decorations. The large metal piece was eventually donated to a university as per the wishes of the Jose Padilla himself. Otherwise, the event eventually faded from memory, with the soldiers taking part in the recovery, returning to their duties and eventually to their civilian lives. Jose and Remigio kept the story largely to themselves, especially that as adults they learned that talking about events like the one they experienced was a shortcut and a one-way ticket to ridicule at best, and to a confinement in a mental health institution at worst. The paths of the friends have parted along their lives, and until they eventually met again via the budding social media and the internet, now well in their 70s. This is when they decided to share the story to a wider public before they themselves leave this earthly abode. The story itself was first reported in 2003 by Ben Moffett, a journalist writing for the local New Mexico newspaper. In its wake, the metallic piece kept by the boys was analyzed and found to resemble silumin, or an alloy of mostly aluminum and silicon with copper and magnesium. The story was later published in the book Need to Know by Timothy Good in 2006 and eventually reached the Italian newspapers, from where Paola Harris, a UFO researcher, picked it up and studied it thoroughly since then. It was further researched by Jacques Vallée, cordially known as the grandfather of ufology by the modern fans of the phenomenon. Skeptics point out that the story was and is a hoax and possibly a figment of imagination created by the boys in their childhood. They also point out that the allegedly alien piece of metal did not differ in any significant manner from our own materials and could have been a piece of equipment used by the military or a bar from the damaged radio tower from near the crash site. On the other hand, Vallée strongly vouches for the case and as possibly real, indicating that the lack of any remaining documents is relatively easy to explain by the age of the boys alone on the civilian side of things, and by military secrecy on the other. Also, he mentioned that while the policeman Apodaca was not clearly identified, the surname is very common in the area and there could have been several people with the same name in the police force. He does, however, acknowledge discrepancies such as the visages of the non-human creatures reported by both boys. He also credits both Jose and Remigio for never trying to monetize their story and coming out with it only very late in their lives, without any particular financial or otherwise material motivation to it. What do you think, dear viewers? The Trinity UFO crash case is difficult to study with little remaining material evidence, but it's still a very interesting story at worst and very possibly an early UFO crash dating back to before Roswell, and thus before more strict protocols for UFO recovery have been established, such as mentioned in my video on the Magenta crash from 1933. The list of alleged UFO crashes is long, and this series is going to keep me busy for a long while to come. However, with the declassification of UFO archives in the wake of the 2024 NDA amendment by Senator Chuck Schumer in the USA, a lot of new and previously unseen files have been opened to the public, including never-before-seen UFO photos from the 50s and the 60s, and we will take a look at them in the next video. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you soon in the new video. Take care.